On the 7th of December 1922, Brigadier General Seán Hales TD was assassinated while on his way from the Ormond Hotel in Dublin to Dáil. On this day, on the 11th of December 1922, his body was laid to rest in St. Mary's Cemetery in Inishannon, where we held a prayer service yesterday. Deputy Mayor, Minister Coveneys, invited guests, the extended Hales family, and all of you who have gathered here today. On behalf of the Seán Hales Centenary Commemoration Committee, I welcome you all here to this military service in honour of Brigadier General Seán Hales. I would like to welcome to the platform and thank you for your attendance Deputy Mayor Councillor Gillian Coughlin, Simon Coveney TD, Minister for Defence and Foreign Affairs, Councillor Marie O'Sullivan, Chairperson of the Bandon Kinsale Municipal Authority, and her fellow councillors Kevin Murphy, John O'Sullivan, and to Senator Tim Lumbert. We also have Superintendent Niall Crowley representing the Garda Síochána and Lieutenant Colonel Adrian Cohan representing the General Officer commanding the 1st Brigade. We have Seán Hales and Donald O'Donovan representing the extended Hales family and the Committee Secretary Eunice Doyle. I would also like to welcome all the elected councillors, TDs, MEPs who have travelled from all over the country to be with us here today to honour their predecessor and first parliamentarian and one of only 3 to be assassinated in the history of this state. I will now just outline quickly the events for today. We will commence with the oration by Minister Coveneys. Seán Hales, grandnephew of Seán Hales, Brigadier, will speak on behalf of the family. We'll have the laying of the wreaths. We'll have 1 minute silence. We'll have the last post, the Reveille, the lowering of the national colour, the raising of the national colour and the national flag, the national anthem. The Defence Forces will then march away from the square, and I will then invite anyone who wants to lay a wreath at the monument. I will ask him to do so when the band has marched away. And please do obey the Guardian Stores during the ceremony. It is both an honour and a privilege on behalf of the committee to welcome the Minister for Defence and Foreign Affairs to Bandon today, and to thank him for taking time out of his very busy schedule and to be with us here today. And I know he will be on a plane straight after he finishes here, more or less, on his way to Brussels. So now, it gives me pleasure to invite Simon Coveney TD, Minister for Defence and Foreign Affairs, to deliver the oration on this, the 100th years anniversary of Brigadier General Seán Hales. Minister Coveney.
Deputy Mayor of Cork County, Chairman of the Seán Hales Centenary Commemoration Committee, Maya Collins, the Hiachtaí Dála, the Hianadori, the Chorlori, in particular members of Óglaigh na hÉireann who are with us today, bringing with them Sliabh, and of course a colour party paying respects to somebody who was lost and continues to be deeply respected within the Defence Forces. Representatives of the Hales family, other special guests and friends. Is son or mór dumsa a bheith ag seasamh an seo in Ruth an Bandon, an ácáid starúil seo. Fáilte romh agus go raibh má guibh go léir as an bheith an seo. We stand here on a wintry December afternoon to reflect on the history of our country at a time of centenaries and commemorations, but also a time where we see history being shaped both at home and abroad today. This week, on the 6th of December, we marked the centenary of the founding of Ireland's independent statehood. In the midst of civil war, when the Constitution of the Irish Free State took effect 100 years ago. The name of the state has changed since then. The Constitution replaced. But the principles of democracy and freedom that were laid in place a century ago have sustained and remained strong since. Ireland's short-lived but bitter civil war pitted brother against brother, sister against sister, tore families and comrades apart. Yet in the years that followed, despite almost impossible odds, young revolutionary leaders courageously established the foundations of democracy in Ireland, with institutions that would survive and thrive in the century that followed. We now in Ireland look at our flag and celebrate one of the oldest unbroken democracies on our continent, without a blighted history of autocracy or dictatorship, as so many other countries have suffered. In truth, our generation, those of us here today, have an awful lot to be thankful for. It's almost 50 years, too, since Ireland joined the then European communities that would become the EU of today, with Ireland physically on the periphery, but undoubtedly now politically at the heart of the EU, as we were reminded by President von der Leyen last week. And it's almost 25 years since the achievement of an unexpected peace on our island through the Good Friday Agreement that, despite setbacks, has allowed a generation to grow to adulthood free of the violence and brutality that their parents had to endure. Today, we continue to live through times of international turmoil and geopolitical tension, but also a time when democracy in Ireland has never been stronger. It's not perfect, but it has sustained us in the last decade through economic collapse, Brexit, a COVID pandemic, and now the consequences of another brutal great war at the heart of Europe, caused by Russian aggression. Through this decade of centenaries, we should remember with respect and humility the many brave and idealistic people, some of whom made the ultimate sacrifice in pursuit of the democracy that protects our families and our quality of life today. One of those patriots was Seán Hales. Seán Hales, described on this monument next to me as volunteer, soldier, statesman, and patriot, was killed by an anti-treaty IRA group as he left Dáil Éireann, ironically on the 7th of December, the day after the new constitution of the Irish Free State took effect, but as a civil war raged on. Years later, when the assembled large public crowd gathered in this place on the 19th of January 1930, they had come not only to witness the unveiling of a statue in memory of a local hero, but perhaps more importantly, to give witness to that person's character. A man who was described on that day as a true Irishman who enjoyed the universal esteem and respect of all Irish people for his service and sacrifice. This statue has been commissioned by a memorial committee made up of family, old comrades, admirers, and the wider public throughout Cork and country. The Italian marble life-size statue was created by an esteemed Italian sculptor, but it was placed on a firm plinth of Irish limestone at the most prominent place that they could find in this town overlooking the bridge. Its commissioning and placement here was to give physical and permanent presence to a legacy of service and sacrifice that remains to this day in the person of Brigadier General Seán Hales TD. Eamon Duggan TD, Parliamentary Secretary to the then Executive Council, and of course one of the 5 signatories to the Anglo-Irish Treaty, unveiled this statue on that day, standing where I'm standing now. He addressed those present as people who were gathered to honour the memory of Brigadier General Seán Hales TD, who devoted his life to win freedom for his country. He described the character of Seán Hales as a person never known to say an unkind word against any man, no matter how they might differ in politics or in other matters. Duggan concluded his remarks with the poignant words that when any bitterness that still exists passes away, the children of the future would look to this monument and appreciate Seán Hales and his work in bringing about a situation in the country in which they are happy to live. Seán Hales still lives on. His memory will inspire the people to love their country and possess the broadness of spirit that he always displayed during his life. What makes those words so powerful was that the unveiling of this statue was considered to be the first public occasion in which both sides of the divide gathered together after the Civil War. Seán Hales brought people together, and he still does here today. In many ways, the Hales family themselves, in their story of patriotism, of loss, of division, of tragedy, and of course family unity through it all, before, during, and after the Civil War, inspired others to find a path forward for the sake of their country. The Hales family, as we know, was deeply divided over the treaty, as were many other families at the time. Seán and his sister Madge took the side of the treaty. The other brothers, Tom, Bill, and Donal, the anti-treaty side. But as a family, they never lost connection with each other. It was rumoured that Madge and Bill kept an open channel of communication between Seán and Tom during the Civil War, until Tom was arrested, after which his brother Seán endured. His brother was not harmed. The family was devastated by Seán's death, and their father, in truth, never really recovered, dying less than a year later. In truth, it was Donal, Seán's anti-treaty brother, who was the central figure in commissioning this statue. And on the day of the unveiling, old comrades, friends, rivals, and previously bitter enemies from both sides of the Civil War divide all stood here to respect the giant character that was Seán Hales. He was born in 1880, the fourth in a family of 9 children, to parents Robert and Margaret, who farmed just a few kilometres from here. They were well known at the time in farming circles, winning awards for their livestock at county shows and further afield. The Haleses were a sporting family too, especially in athletics. The Hales boys were feared and respected in equal measure, but the competition within the family drove them on. Like many others, this talented and close West Cork family were drawn into a struggle for land rights, for tenant rights, and subsequently a struggle for Irish freedom. Of the 9 Hales children, most would become directly involved in that movement. Sean, Robert, William and Tom all joined the Irish Volunteers, while their brother Donal, a teacher who lived in Italy, later became a Republican envoy in Genoa during the War of Independence. Along with their youngest sister Madge, they would all play a part in achieving independence. Seán Hales was appointed captain of the Ballynadee Company of the Irish Volunteers in 1916. He was arrested in the aftermath of the Rising and imprisoned until April the following year. His military involvement in the War of Independence was a significant one. One of his most defining military engagements was the ambush of Crossbarry in March 1921, when Seán and his brothers participated in a battle that proved to be one of the defining military engagements of that time. Those were the days when soldiers were politicians too. And in 1921, Seán Hales was elected to the second Dáil as a Sinn Féin member. And in June 1922, Seán was again re-elected to the third Dáil as a pro-treaty Sinn Féin TD. During the Civil War, he was appointed Brigadier Commandant and would oversee the campaign to regain control of West Cork towns and villages throughout the summer period of 1922. Not an easy thing for him to do, given the fact that he would have personally known many of the personalities that he fought against. He was one of the last people to meet with General Michael Collins on that fateful evening of the 20th of August at Lee's Hotel before the ambush at Bailnablaw. The friendship between those two men was clear and solid. Seán Hales and his family in life and in death can teach us all something about the challenges of reconciliation. As we approach a historic, agreed handover of the Taoiseach's office from a sitting Fianna Fáil Taoiseach to a Fine Gael Taoiseach, in a coalition government that works now and works well on the basis of trust and good relationships. I hope that we have learned something of how to respect different perspectives on the past, through the broadness of spirit that describes still Seán Hales today. To work for a future together that is true to the sacrifice of those patriots on all sides who suffered to establish the country that we are trying to serve today. As Collins wrote, "The Ireland to which we are true is an ideal Ireland, which means there is always more to strive for. If that new ambition is to sustain peace, democracy, opportunity, and ultimately a content society for everybody, we will need to work on our broadness of spirit, our tolerance, our willingness to embrace diversity, and perhaps too, the language that we use to reach out to those who fear the change that we may advocate on this island in the future. Let us take inspiration, a century on, from the death of a great man. Thank you, and God bless you all this Christmas.
Thank you most sincerely, Minister Coveney. And again, we are indebted on behalf of the committee, and I know to everybody else here, that Minister Coveney could be with us. 12 months ago, I asked him, could he come to this celebration on today? And he promised me, regardless of what would happen, that he would be here. And even he was supposed to go earlier today to Brussels, but he put it back to go later after this. So again, Minister Coveney, we are indeed deeply grateful to you. At this stage, I would like to thank the Garda Síochána for all the help and assistance in the organisation of this event. To the Defence Forces, thank you for your attendance here today and for to come to pay respect to a former Army General, and in particular to all the band and all the military personnel that are here today in anticipation of, I know, what will be a beautiful ceremony. Just show our appreciation to them. To the Civil Defence under Niall Toomey for being the first responders today, we are most grateful. To Cork County Council, both at county level and at local level, you have gone above and beyond the call of duty in every way, and we thank you so much for the help you have given us. To John O'Donovan for the public address, and to ODM for the power, thank you. To the extended Hales family, who have worked closely with the committee for the last 2 years, and in particular to Sean and Colette and family of Knocknacarra, who have opened up their home to us for all the meetings and for the kindness and warm welcome they gave us. We thank you on behalf of the committee. I now invite grandnephew of Brigadier General Seán Hales. I invite his grandnephew Seán Hales to speak on behalf of the extended Hales family.
Deputy Mayor Gillian Coughlin, Minister Coveney, Teachta Dála, councillors, members of the Seán Hales Centenary Committee. We are thinking today of our dear friend, the late Bill O'Reilly. May he rest in peace. On behalf of the Hales family, I wish to thank the committee for the invitation to speak today and indeed to participate in this wonderful weekend of tributes to commemorate the death of our granduncle, Seán Hales. We are proud and honoured. Growing up in Knocknacarra, where I now live with my own family, Seán and his siblings were nurtured by parents who believed passionately in Republican tradition of Wolfe Tone, Robert Emmet, and O'Donovan Rossa. His father, Robert, was himself a Fenian supporter and a member of the Irish Republican Brotherhood. Seán, Bill, Bob, Madge, and Tom would, like so many of their neighbours in the community, join in the Irish Volunteers and Cumann, while Dolan served as a Republican envoy in Genoa in Italy. These young men and women pledged to live by the creed of the 1916 proclamation. The Republic they aspire to guaranteed religious and civil liberty, equal rights and equal opportunity to all its citizens, a resolve to pursue happiness and prosperity for the whole nation, and cherish all the children of the nation equally. In the years that followed, so many of Ireland's finest lived and died in pursuit of this ideal. The story of the Hales family has been well documented, but it is only through readings of the many letters between siblings that we, his family, have discovered the type of man Seán was. Seán was fiercely loyal to his family, strong in faith. He displayed admirable traits of courage and leadership, strongly influenced by his father and uncles. Seán's first passion was for the land and farming. He was a progressive farmer. In 1905, he imported the first steam engine into Bandon called the St. Patrick, which he used mainly for threshing in South Munster. Seán's first encounter with the police was when he and his brothers and neighbours successfully freed his father's cattle, which have been impounded due to inability to pay rates demanded. An unjust action in Seán's eyes, he set out to right that wrong and was imprisoned for 2 weeks in Spike Island. That would be the first of many absentees away from home due to his political activities. The brothers, Seán, Tom, Bob and Bill, were united in 1916 and the War of Independence. Enduring hardship while on the run from the authorities. At the same time, their sister Madge endured her own hardship keeping the family farm running, caring for her elderly parents while carrying out her own revolutionary activities. Time and again, the Crown forces tried to destroy the Hales family. The arrest and torture of Tom and Pat Hart, the killing of their friend and employee, John Murphy, who was only 19 years of age at the time, and finally the burning of the family home in Knocknacorra in March 1921, which left them homeless and destitute. But despite the best efforts, they did not break the revolutionary spirit of the Haleses. Sadly, the Hales family symbolized tragedy in the Civil War. The siblings were divided politically on what was the best way to achieve independence. Seán and Madge accepted the treaty while Tom, Bob, Bill and Donald rejected it. They all wanted to reach the same destination. They differed on what roads they would take to get there. But despite their political differences, Tom and Seán remained friends. Tragically, the Civil War was to claim many of our brightest revolutionaries, Michael Collins being one of the first. Unknown to Seán at the time, when he saw Collins here in Bandon before he made that fateful trip to Banlablaw, where Tom overseeing the planning of the ambush which Collins would die. The death of Collins was felt by all so much that Seán and Tom realized everything could be lost if they could not find a way to reconcile both sides. This led to the meeting to discuss ways on how to broker peace. We know of their efforts thanks to an account left by Nora Doyle, anti-treaty Kilpatrick branch Cumann in her recently released pension file, where she stated, on a Sunday at the end of November 1922, Seán sent for me and I went to meet him at Drew's, Shannon Street, Bandon. He said he was very anxious to try and end the Civil War, and Tom Innes and Emmett Dalton were with him. General Dalton was in the Cork Command at the time. We discussed plans for some time. He went up to the barracks and brought down General Tom Innes, and it was decided that Seán Hales was going to Dublin to a meeting in the Dáil, where he would call for a truce at the end of the session. Meantime, trying to influence any others he could act with him and resign as a protest if they didn't agree. Dalton and Innes were to take action immediately. I went to Cork and Dalton told me I could send in an account of the matter to Tom Hales, who was in jail, and he gave me instructions that the censor was not to open the letter. Of their last meeting, Tom Hales said to his dying day he will thank God of the last meeting. Tragically, Seán was killed in Dublin a short time later. In 2 days in December, West Cork lost 2 sons. Seán was assassinated while making his way to the Dáil on the 7th of December. The following day, his lifelong friend Dick Barrett was one of the 4 men executed in Mountjoy jail as a reprisal for the killing of Seán. Despite their own grief, this was a policy the Hales family would not support and made their feelings clearly in a letter to the Cork Examiner, stating that reprisals on either side would only increase the bitterness and delay the reconciliation that all patriotic men longed for and prayed for. Irish, 100 years on, we are witnessing the reconciliation of a community that was divided. If we are to honour the memory of that generation, we must continue that reconciliation through dialogue. Seán Hales died a brother, a hero, and for us a beloved son, brother, wonderful father figure, a lover of justice and freedom, who had a clear vision of the Ireland that he fought and died for. But I will end with the words of one who knew him, David Ryan. Let him sleep where southern grass tosses its green foliage over his grave. Though Cork and the nation lament their losses, all the world mourns the death of the brave. Let him sleep in the breast of his dear land, wrapped in the sword from his own native dales. For the fame of his valour shall garland with glory the tomb of Seán Hales. Arish de go raibh mála díris Seán Mac Hale, go raibh maith agat.
Thank you very much, Seán. During the past year, we lost one of our committee members, Bill O'Reilly, taken much too young and much too soon. Bill was one of the driving forces on our committee, and we miss him so much, but I know we miss him nothing like what his wife Margaret, family Kate and Willem, and the extended O'Reilly and Dempsey family do. And I know they are here present, and you are most welcome here. Bill, we asked you at the lunch not to forget us on this day and make sure that we got a dry day. You haven't left us down, so now, Bill, good friend, rest in peace. And now we come to the most poignant part of the ceremony, the laying of the wreaths and the military honours. And as we prepare to lay the wreaths, let us remember all the brave people from Ballinspittle, Ballynadee, Kilbrittain, Inishannon, Bandon, and all parts of West Cork and beyond, who stood side by side with Seán Hales in the fight for freedom. And we remember in particular today Seán's brother Tom Hales, who stood shoulder to shoulder in the War of Independence, and despite their difference in later life, remained the closest of friends and worked tirelessly to bring about a peaceful solution to our country. I would now ask you all to please stand. And I now invite the Minister to lay a wreath on behalf of the State, Donald O'Donovan, grandnephew of Seán Hales, on behalf of the family, and Eunice Doyle on behalf of the committee. So I now ask the wreath-laying party to make their way to the monument, please. Minister will now lay the wreath on behalf of the state. Grandnephew of Brigadier General Seán Hales, on behalf of the extended Hales family, Donald O'Donnell will now lay the wreath. And on behalf of the Seán Hales Centenary Commemoration Committee, the Secretary of the Committee, Eunice Doyle, will now lay the wreath. We will now observe 1 minute silence, please. I would now like to thank everyone for taking part in our ceremony here today, especially Minister Coveneys and the Defence Forces. I would like also to ask you to please obey Guardian stewards when the roads open up again and the traffic starts flowing through. And I will also invite anyone to Sliabh and thank you for coming down from the Curragh with the Sliabh, those involved in that. Thank you most sincerely. It will remain for a little while afterwards. If anyone would like to come and visit it, take photographs or any of that, but please don't be going near it and touch it or anything like that. And now the ceremony has concluded. Our leading party may return to their positions, please. And if there is anybody else that would like to lay wreaths at the monument, you may now do so, please. Anyone else that wants to lay a wreath at the monument, you may now do so, please. Thank you for being with us today.